Hey everybody, how is everybody doing today on Live on Wednesdays? Today I am going to be talking about sleep. I get a lot of questions about what can we do for sleep, and one aspect of sleep that prevents sleep, I should say, is restless leg syndrome. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 12 different triggers of restless leg syndrome, or RLS, that you can try to drill down to see if there are triggers for you and that you can try to avoid them. So first of all, there's an average of like 10 women who have restless leg syndrome. But that amount is increased to 33% when you add in pregnancy. Pregnancy tends to increase restless leg syndrome. It could be from lack of iron or folate, or just because of the increased estrogen levels. So the first trigger is if you're pregnant. Second trigger is caffeine. Now, the average person might drink, on an average, 2 cups of coffee a day. But there's other things that have caffeine in it. There's tea, there's colas, energy drinks, other sodas. I think about Mountain Dew, that's like has a huge amount of caffeine in it. Chocolate. Who doesn't love chocolate, right? Cold medicines. Now that might be one that you might not think of off the top of your head, but cold medicines, like your over-the-counter medicines, can have caffeine in them, and so that can trigger restless leg syndrome. So that's going to lead us into number 3, and that is medications, whether it is a prescription or non-prescription medication. It may contain caffeine, so you're going to have to, if you have anything that you might suspect, you're going to want to check into it. Check with your doctor, check with your pharmacist about what the ingredients are. So there's a caffeine issue there. The second issue with medications is that some of them may block dopamine. And we know that dopamine is naturally, it controls our muscle action. So dopamine, if there's not enough of dopamine, it can trigger muscle spasms or tremors. And dopamine naturally gets less at the end of the day. So if we're taking something that is going to block it even more, then you're going to have like a deficiency of dopamine, and that could lead then to RLS, or restless leg syndrome. Some of the worst culprits as far as medications are concerned are over-the-counter antihistamines, cold medications, cold remedies, anti-nausea drugs, but also prescription antidepressants are also known for causing problems. Number 4 is alcohol. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a drink at the end of your day, or, to help you relax. And that's what alcohol will do. It will initially help you to relax and make falling asleep easier. Excuse me, but that is short term, because it can also trigger waking up during the night. The key word there is that it's short term. Okay, so keep it in moderation. Don't drink it when you're close to that the time frame, the time that you normally go to bed. Keep it far enough away from that. And the other thing about alcohol if it's not in moderation, it can lead to peripheral neuropathy, which is damage to the nerves in your feet and your hands. Moving on, number 5 is refined sugars. So I'm not sure why. I mean, they didn't really know why, but I think I think about when kids are loaded up on sugar, how do they act? They're very high energy, very spastic, certainly not relaxed. So when you think about sugar as contributing to spastic muscles, which is what RLS is, and not having a relaxed state, it kind of makes sense. But refined sugars are really hidden in a lot of things. I'm not talking about just cookies and candy and cakes. We're talking about things that can be hidden in processed foods and drinks. So like, think your sauces, your condiments like ketchup, mustard, spaghetti sauce, basically anything that is purchased in a store in a jar, it's pre-made, it's processed. Look for the sugar in it. I mean, you can certainly find things that don't have it in it, but you really have to do your due diligence in searching for that. Okay, number 6. I didn't even think about, this was kind of a little surprise to me. Didn't even think about this. Temperature. Each person is different, of course, but some people are affected by the heat and the humidity, whereas other people are affected by the cold. So if you have RLS, pay attention to what the temperature is when you are experiencing some symptoms of this, and note it down. If it's hot and humid outside, then you're going to want to lessen those symptoms by having a cold shower or ice packs. If you are a person who RLS is stimulated by cold temperatures, then a hot bath and heating pad would be something that you could try to help lessen those symptoms. Number 7. Okay, number seven. Exercise. You're like, what? Aren't we supposed to exercise for health? Yes, exactly. We are supposed to exercise in moderation. Overdoing exercise is the key point here. We want to be able to exercise in moderation, but when we overdo things, then it's like it can aggravate it. Like going for the gold can be very aggravating to RLS. Things like training for a marathon when you have never done that before, or you're not used to doing it. Cycling for long distances, or lifting too much weight with your legs, like on a leg press. So how do you know? Well, just cut back temporarily to see if anything changes with the RLS, and then you can see, you'll be able to tell if it's exercise induced or not. Okay. Number 8. Okay. Stress. Stress is huge. And we all know stress is a trigger for a lot of things. And it only makes sense that it would be a trigger for something that is spastic, like RLS. There is like a whole long list of things that we can do to reduce stress. I'm just going to leave that for here, and I'm going to focus on that next week. Okay? We'll do another segment on sleep and stress for next week. Number 9, inactivity. So if overdoing exercise is not good, the opposite would also be true. You don't want to be on either end of the spectrum, overdoing and doing nothing. You want to be in this middle part here, right here in the middle where you're balanced, a balanced activity. So inactivity, it happens to all of us. Maybe we're on a long road trip. We need to pause, take periodic stops, get up, exercise, get out, walk around and exercise our legs. Same way if you're on a long plane flight. There are times during the plane flight when you can get out of your seat, which is very small area, very cramped, when you can get up and kind of walk around, go back to the bathroom, walk back, whatever it might be. You just sometimes need to do that. Another thing which I didn't even think about was watching a movie. If you go to a movie theater and you're sitting there for 2-3 hours, that's inactivity. So you maybe watch a movie at home. If restless leg syndrome is something that's really bad for you and inactivity is something that triggers it, try watching a movie at home. That way you can pause it, you can get up, you can walk around, take a break, get a drink of water, whatever you need to do. Go back, sit down, watch the rest of your movie. All of these are just, a lot of this stuff is just using good common sense for some of these things. And other things are like, wow, I had no clue. So number 10, this is going to sound funny, but number 10 is a lack of sleep contributes to restless leg syndrome. And you're like, it's like a vicious circle. If lack of sleep contributes to it, restless leg syndrome keeps me awake or wakes me up. It's like this vicious circle. So what might be causing a lack of sleep? Sleep apnea is one thing. So you might want to check with your doctor about that, what you can do about that. But also remember back with the alcohol, just don't be drinking alcohol so close to your bedtime, because it may help short term, relax you and help you to fall asleep very easily, but it won't help you to stay asleep. It just, you'll wake up later. And that's what you don't want, okay? Number 11, smoking. There are many, many reasons to quit smoking. So just add one more. Restless leg syndrome. Add that one to it as well. Why is that? Because the nicotine is a trigger. It's something that starts or initiates restless leg syndrome. Okay, the last one, everybody, the last one, number 12. There's certain kinds of clothing that can encourage restless leg syndrome. Maybe the fabric, the kind of fabric that we have we can be a little sensitive to it. Maybe it itches us or it just isn't comfortable. So the other thing is that maybe the clothing is too tight. You want loose clothing sometimes. If clothing is something that's going to be a trigger for you, you need to change it up. How are you going to know? Just take notice of when it happens, when RLS happens, take notice of it and figure out what your clothing is that you have during that time. Just take notice of it. Keep track of it. If you see a pattern, then you got to change things around. Change your clothing. Change the fabric. whatever it is, you have to try to figure out what each person might be causing it. You have to figure it out. So that's pretty much it for today, everybody. Thanks for joining me on Live on Wednesdays. And remember, next week, I'm going to focus on the stress aspect of it and the different ways that we can reduce stress. All right? So have a great rest of the day. Bye now.